What's happening, people? Welcome back to another podcast of the Mini Adult Travels. In today's podcast, I have with me founder of SCORE, School of Communication and Reputation, someone who has had over 15 years of experience in public relation and reputation management. Amit Prabhu is on the show today. Truly honored to have you on the show, sir. I'm very, very thankful and grateful for you giving me your time.
Thanks, Ayush. I'm glad to be here. I hope I'll be of help to you and your listeners.
100%. So before we begin into the questions, dive into the PR and all that, could you quickly give introduction to the listeners?
To the PR business.
No, not into
To
the
my
PR
business.
business. Your business. एक बार आप अपने
Okay.
बारे में बता दो. हाँ.
So I learned this term a few years ago when I was an employee of another company called Social Enterprise and Social Entrepreneurs.
हाँ.
And I was wondering, how can I be a social entrepreneur? Because I always had an interest in entrepreneurship, but I didn't want to be a typical businessman or typical founder of a startup, but I wanted to do something that will help others like me. And I realized in 2011, 2012, when I was 10 years into my job, that I needed certain amount of help that nobody was creating in the Indian marketplace. And
Okay.
I happened to be at that time in a very lucky position. I got a stint to work with the world's biggest PR firm in their biggest office in the US in Chicago.
Wow.
And during those 24 months, I was exposed to a bunch of events, programs in the US market. And I said, these are superb to be done in India as well, and someone needs to do it. So I
Yeah.
returned from the US to create some of those things in India. So my business in the last 8 7 8 years have been three. I created along with two other partners initially, and then two more joined us later on. I
Yeah.
created India's PR school. It was a physical school originally planned to be in NCR, but we got a space that made sense in Mumbai. So we moved the school to Mumbai for the first batch, and we had 5 batches there.
Yeah.
The last batch and the entire school on Zoom because of the situation we all are in. The
Yeah.
second business, which actually began before the school, but it became a business later, was we created what has now become the world's biggest residential conference for PR professionals. So every year in September, typically, we bring together about 700 professionals for 2 days and 2 nights of learning, networking, sharing, and fun in a different city, different location every year. And that
Okay.
event is called Praxis.
Yeah.
And the third thing we did is we created a media outlet, a portal of sorts with a print magazine to back it up called Reputation Today and reputationtoday.in. I think in India and in the world, it's the only PR portal of its kind, which is completely crowdsourced with content, articles from PR professionals across. We don't
Okay.
do news, there's news and perspectives. So we are in a nice spot in this triangle of a training academy, a conference kind of a setup, and a media portal together. And
Yeah.
then in the last few years, we've also added a PR awards to it called Fulcrum Awards. And lastly, we created a learning association for the PR fraternity in India called PR Club or prclub.in. So all these put together, I feel, help the Indian PR professional from 18 to 81. I say 18 because those who are just into college after they are plus two and becoming students of mass communication or business to
Right.
understand PR in a new light, and until 81, and we have people in the 81 years age group who are typically lifetime achievement
Oh
winners.
wow.
They worked in PR and then they retired, but they still contribute,
Yeah.
who benefit from things. So we say we support and serve the Indian PR and Copcom fraternity from the 18 to 81 age group typically.
Got it. Got it. That's a lot of businesses and a lot of impact that you just mentioned. But moving, I actually have a few questions related to score as well that I would like to ask you later down. But to start with, what exactly is PR at an individual level? If at my level, I'm a 21-year-old recent college graduate. What is PR for me? Why is it important to me?
So before I answer the question why it's important for you, I'll explain what PR is and how PR was created more for brands and organizations, and then it's applicable to people as well.
Correct.
So I always tell people PR has two layers to it. There's a foundational layer and then an upper layer, and then you can add many other factors and aspects to it. There are about 25 aspects that create the whole concept of PR.
Yeah.
So the base of PR, the foundation of PR is campaigns, communications, common sense, and culture. So if
Okay.
and it's coincidental, I didn't plan it this way, but when I explain it, I use these 8 examples, 4 and 4. They all start with C. Easy to remember. So PR is about primarily communicating. It's communicating a brand, communicating an organization's benefits, existence to audiences that the brand or organization will benefit from. right? So communication is at the heart of PR largely. There can be sometimes non-communicative PR as well. I'll come to that in a couple of examples later on.
Sure.
The second is PR can happen in a very haphazard and sporadic manner in some cases, but usually PR is based on campaigns. And if you go historically, we hear the word campaign in marketing, we hear the word campaign in elections, we hear political campaigns, we hear of various kinds of campaigns. I think campaign comes from thousands of years of history. It's a part of
Correct.
literally open ground called campaigna, where soldiers would practice for war and then invite neighboring soldiers from other kingdoms to fight wars. So the word campaign comes from a war ground campaigns in the world of business to marketing campaigns and to PR campaigns. So good PR is based on campaigns, and campaigns are nothing but planned, structured ways of approaching a problem and finding a solution or achieving a target. The
Okay.
third and fourth are much
Interesting.
softer.
Hmm.
Common sense and culture. So a lot of PR is common sense, and common sense is very simple. For example, in a flight, if you are having a problem with something with the aircraft, a crew member is trained to say, "Hey, upgrade or move this person from economic class to business class." And they do that because they know that there'll be a positive effect on that person's mind. He or she will
Correct.
say, "Wow, I had an issue in economic class. I moved to the business class and it made me feel great." And that is a simple example of common sense in PR. People don't look at it as PR. They say, okay, it was just a customer service thing, but it's actually PR. And culture is typically in organizations when companies treat their employees well. Most companies do that. They believe that employees last longer in the company and will also treat the company and the company's customers well. And there are multiple examples of that, especially in the tech world, which 20 years ago had to attract talent to join large companies. They created great culture there. And culture is also an important part of PR. So that's the base level of PR. So when PR practitioners mix and match campaigns, communications, common sense, and culture, they're able to get a PR campaign or a PR framework or a PR approach going. The second
Right.
layer is PR built on four blocks of content, connect, crisis management, and counsel on behavior specifically. And I'll explain that in a nutshell as well. So a large chunk of PR is communications, and communication translates into content. So things you see that companies put out, whether it's a press release, a blog, a social media post, a speech by a chairperson, that's all content created by communication or PR professionals within a company or working in a PR firm. That's 50% of the PR work.
Okay.
Then there are two kinds of stakeholders. There's a primary stakeholder and the secondary stakeholders. The primary stakeholders always the employees and the customers. I mean, no company can survive without these two. They're interdependent. You need employees to run the business, and you need customers to buy what the business sells. And then secondary stakeholders are many. There's government, there are communities, there are shareholders, there are investors, and whatnot. And there's a third aspect of this connect, which is I don't call it a stakeholder. It's more a special interest group, which is
Okay.
media. A lot of PR people actively engage with media because for their clients or for their own companies, if they work in house, they need media to write about their companies and the company's offerings, benefits to its larger audiences,
Yeah.
employees, potential employees, customers. So connect is very important in PR. So a lot of PR people are smart connectors. The third
I
and
agree.
fourth, which is crisis management. So a lot of PR people work to build crisis mitigation plans, to have crisis playbooks, because all the time companies don't have crises. But when a crisis occurs, you can't start planning then. So you need to plan in advance for a crisis. So that's another important aspect of PR, and then managing the crisis using the power of content or communication and some of the other aspects I mentioned, common sense and culture, you are
Hmm.
able to manage crises better. And the last part is counsel on behavior. So a lot of PR people are trained or accustomed to either, if they work inside a company in-house, to advise their bosses on reputation and behavior, or if they work in a PR consultancy, to advise their clients on what to do, what to say, when to say, how to say. So that's
Yeah.
what PR months later, I'll bring them back. But typically, this is the primary framework of PR: campaigns, communications, common sense, and culture at the foundational level, and content, connect, crisis management, and counsel on behavior at the next level. So, in a
Hmm.
nutshell, if somebody wants to get into PR or be a PR professional, he or she should be able to understand this concept and be good at least one concept from the foundation level and one from the upper level. And then you can always hone your skills and build on other concepts as you go along. So that's in a brief way PR. The other way to understand PR is nothing but it's a reputation management. Every
Yeah.
brand, every individual about his or her or the brand's reputation. I think PR is nothing but another word for reputation management. You do all these things to build, enhance, manage your reputation. So
Right. So
I always synonym for public relations is reputation management.
yeah, I think I first time I read about this term reputation management was when I went to your LinkedIn profile, and I was
Right.
thinking about why have you written reputation management, and I think you've also written reputation scientist. So that got me thinking that public relation. Am I correct in saying that public relation is a way of making people believe that you have this persona or you have this outlook to life as a personal brand, if I'm talking about a person, or even in a company, if I'm talking about a company, the way Reliance does its activity, it's very very structured, it's very very planned PR or reputation, as you just said, so that लोगों को लगे कि अच्छा Reliance ऐसा है. Is that correct?
Yes and no, both. Typically, the trick in PR is that you should be doing PR for honest and good companies. If an honest and good company exists, then that company should be doing its public relations to tell the world. PR, and I'm not
Okay.
referring to any example you gave me. I don't want to say that any company is not honest. That's not the intent here.
Yeah.
But PR cannot be done right if it's a dishonest organization, company, or person. Then that is something else.
Okay.
My belief has been, and there can be disagreements on this,
Interesting.
that PR is to be done for honest and upright people, companies. If they are not, then it's spin, or it is just cheap publicity or a publicity stunt being done for an individual or organization. And it takes me back 10 years ago or 12 years ago. I was at a conference where I was listening to the media advisor of a former prime minister of the country. And
Okay.
somebody asked him, as a media advisor, what is your advice to your boss on a day-to-day basis? So he said, he will give a very interesting example. He said, my boss is like a Mercedes Benz and not a rickety car. He said, you don't have to give any advice to Mercedes Benz. It's best in class, it's a top quality product, and the world knows of it. You just need to be there to help if somebody is not able to access the information on that product. And that was an interesting way of looking at it. So I've always believed that PR should be only done to products, brands, people who are basically good at the core, at heart. If they are not, PR should actually help people realize that they're not good at the heart or good at core, and help them change and then do PR for them. I think doing PR to people who are, or brands who are
Very
not
interesting.
good is not a great idea. I mean, people do it. I'm not saying no, and that's where the biggest problem in PR comes of ethics, and that's why PR sometimes gets a bad name, because a lot of people believe I can do PR for a bad brand, bad product, bad service,
Yeah.
and use the same tactics, and it works. Yeah, it works, but in the long term, it brings a bad name to the person doing it, to the profession, to the concept of PR itself. Yeah.
Right. That publicity stunt and bad PR, these words that you mentioned, that brings me to an interesting question, because we all know it happens. Paid PR is just spread across everywhere, not only India. So, and a lot of people do it at a very
I'll correct you there because you said paid PR. I just want to bring in, there's a concept called paid, earned, and owned media. So there's nothing called paid PR. Media is paid, earned, and owned. So typically, advertising and anything linked to advertising is called paid media, because you're paying a owner of a media outlet, whether it's a print magazine or a TV channel or a radio station. You're paying them for an advertisement or a message to be given, and it's typically known to the audience that that's paid for. Earned is when a PR practitioner on his or her own pitches an idea or story to a journalist, and the journalist believes or buys it and says, okay, this makes sense to my viewer or reader, and I'm going to carry it, and there's no money involved in it. That's earned media. And PR typically does earned media. And owned is when a business or a brand owns the media outlet. And in today's times, you can own as simple as a Twitter handle or a Facebook page or a LinkedIn page. That's one. But traditionally, websites were owned media. A lot of hospitality brands have their own media. Like airlines have in-flight magazines, hotels have their in-room magazines. I think back in the day, a couple of retail chains, including Future Group and Big Bazaar or Pantaloons, had their own in-house magazine. That was own media. So you would give it to customers, and you would put your own messages in that without spending too much money on advertising, and you would get customers to see your brand, your awareness, without spending too much money, except on the print cost of it. So that is where paid, earned, and owned comes. There's nothing called paid PR. There's paid media. Sometimes people use that word interchangeably, and I always like to bring in the right perspective for that. But go on, ask me a question.
Right, right. Thanks for doing that. That just showed that this episode, this podcast is very, very important because as 20-year-olds, we just think कि अच्छा ये PR paid होगा, ये PR ऐसा होगा. We did not have this perspective. So thanks for that. And
I'm
yes,
glad we can talk about it.
right. My coming to the question was, so with what you just said, PR in general is organic only. Only when it's earned, only when it's deserving, it's done, right?
Right.
Anything
The
else?
moment it's paid for, it's advertising. So typically it's advertising, but some media owners and marketers very smartly in the last 25, 30 years have tried to bring a little bit of a hybrid model, which is either called advertorial, which is interesting,
I
or
see.
some media groups in the world, including in India, like Times of India Group or Hindustan Times Group, have created divisions or sections within the group to help marketing people bring in news that looks like it was earned but actually paid for. So Times of India has a concept which is almost 20 years old called Media Net. So any brand mentioned in Bombay Times, Gurgaon Times, Delhi Times is not brand mentioned on its own. It's paid for. And they have a small little 8 size font script mentioned there saying this is a promotional feature that they carry. People don't read it, so people who are not well versed with this, not in marketing, not in PR, they assume that wow, there's an amazing brand mention of a new clothing brand or a new watch brand, and say wow, it's great. So it works for the brand and the marketer, but in the long term, it's paid for. So anybody who has deep pockets, has money, can afford it, gets it done. But an article on its own, which comes in some publications saying this car has been reviewed by us and it's a great car to buy, is typically earned media. But again, I give a example of cars. Car companies have a lot of budgets to spend on advertising, so they give advertising revenue to media outlets, and media outlets also run reviews on their own as well. So that's a little bit of a gray area in some way, but we can talk of it if we need to later on.
Nice, nice, nice. Wow, this is exactly what I wanted to talk about. Right. So how does how does PR work in India? So from my perspective, wherever I've worked in a company where I was an employee and then I'm doing my own thing. At both the places I've seen PR. I want to do PR for my uh, creators, and I have seen companies hiring PR firms to do the PR of their firm. Right. So
Right.
how does this work? So because they pay the PR firms, right, and then they go
Correct.
out. So what's the structure?
Right. So across the world and in India, there are three kinds of people who work in PR. Three kinds.
Okay.
The first is people who work inside a company. Okay, they are employed by a company. It could be a company like Maruti Suzuki, could be Oracle, could be Tanishq. They work within the company. They are typically called in-house PR professionals, and I'll come
Correct.
back to it in a moment. In-house.
Yeah, in-house.
The second is people who work in a PR consultancy. Some people call it a PR firm, some call it a PR company, some wrongly call it a PR agency. And I'll tell you why it's not an agency in a moment as well. That's the second group of people. The third are people who work independently as freelancers, and they say, okay, I understand how PR works. I won't work with the company. I'll work with a bunch of clients independently, maybe with one intern or one assistant, and manage it. So there are these three kinds of people working in-house, working in consultancies, and working as freelancers or independent as one-person shops. That's the first part. The second aspect of working in PR also is PR is usually in 4 or 5 places. You see PR in companies, PR in NGOs, PR in political parties, PR in governments, and PR in areas like Bollywood, where you work for celebrity PR. So Bollywood, authors, politicians, they also employ PR in some way. It's more for individual PR and reputation building. We'll come back to that later on. I made a comment saying PR agencies are not agencies, but typically globally, agents or agencies work on commission basis. So when you do a deal, you get a commission. So there's a modeling agency, there's a real estate agency, there is a travel agency where the business works on commissions, ad agency. PR companies don't work on commissions. They work on retainer fees or project fees.
True.
So let's say Ayush Shukla wants to engage a PR firm to help him build his brand as the greatest young marketer in the country. And you can hire one of these two. You can hire a freelancer or a PR firm, and there's no way you can pay them a commission. If you say, "Hey, get me 20 of publicity in whatever form. I want to speak at 5 conferences. I want my interview 5 publications." There's no way you can pay my commission. You are paying the PR firm for the time that they offer you for their advice and their execution.
Makes sense.
So the retainer fee or project fee is linked to time typically, and that's how PR firms work. And you can also engage a freelancer who will individually work for you and say, "Okay, I'll do this for you."
Yeah.
So typically, companies or entities pay a PR firm to work on a mandate. It could be a short term or a long term mandate. And similarly, in-house professionals are paid a salary. So PR firms are paid a retainer, in-house are paid a salary to get these things done. Then an in-house professional will work on a plan. So let's assume the plan is just creating social media content. So he or she can do it on her own or his own or with a team. They create posts on a weekly, monthly, quarterly, yearly basis, and they're posting it. So they're paid for their time. They're not paid for each post created because they work in-house as employees. That's one. Same with the PR firm. You pay PR firm and the PR firm will give you a rate card. They say, okay, these are 20 people working on your business throughout the year across the country. And therefore, we're charging you 10 lakh per month, 20 people working on a bunch of brands that you have, and each one is doing a different thing. Somebody is doing social media posts, somebody is doing chairman speeches, somebody is doing podcasts. So there are various things you do. So if you remember in the beginning, I told you about the second layer of PR. I said content connect. So a large part of PR people work on content, and there are 5 types of content that you use in PR. So the first is
Okay.
text content. So press releases, blogs, speeches that are written. So that's text. The second is audio content. Again, speeches can be also in audio content because it's usually verbally expressed by a leader in the company, and you record it, or you have podcasts. So audio content is typically speeches or podcasts, and sometimes music created for some internal reason, not advertising music, but there is a signature tune for an employee town hall that you outsource to somebody to make that music for you. That's the second content piece. The third is visual content, pure play visual. It could be graphical, it could be photographs, painting, art, stuff done on Corel Draw, Photoshop. It's visual. The fourth is audio visual, typically films, movies, little documentaries, short films. A PowerPoint with music to it also is audio visual. And the fifth is interactive. There are two kinds of interactive. One is in the modern times, we use a lot of things through maybe robotics, through AI, to various things to interact with customers. But the most common and easy interactive content is events. So any event done by a company aimed at specific stakeholders. It could be a town hall for the employees. It could be a press conference for the special interest group called journalists. It could be an event done in a mall to activate some potential customers. They're all content ultimately.
Yeah.
So PR people work on creating one or more of these content avenues, and then they connect that with the stakeholder in the second leg of that little box I shared with you. So that's what PR people do, and that's how PR people are typically hired. I hope I answered that question. If you don't think I've answered enough, ask me further questions, and I'll keep building on that.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense.
But yeah, that's in
Correct.
brief how PR is done in some measure. I mean, there is much more one can do. I just give you 2 common examples of using influencers without paying for them, using media outlets without paying for them.
Yeah. Yep, that gives me a lot of perspective and just tells me how much wrong or how much misinformation I had when it comes to public relation. So because under my perspective, it was like 80% paid and 20% kar diya hota hoga. But this is completely new.
It's 100% earned, but PR companies have become smart these days. What they've done is they have started hiring people from advertising, from media buying and planning in separate divisions globally and in India, because they realize if a client has 100 rupees to spend, earlier the client was giving the PR company 5 rupees. He was giving the advertising company almost 30 rupees, and he was giving the media buying and planning company, he or she, 65 rupees for buying this space, 100 rupees, right? And everywhere
Correct.
the client was spending, the agencies or the PR consultancy was earning in some way. So advertising agencies began to say, hey, client, give us your press release also along with the ad we place. We'll do a deal and ask editorial to carry that in some form. So PR firms became smarter and said, oh, we're losing even that $5 we were getting. We maybe only called for 2 rupees worth of work. So PR firm said, we'll go to clients and say, you give us that remaining 30 rupees, we'll do creative for you. You give us the remaining 65 rupees, we'll also buy media space for you. And we'll save for you. We'll give you a better discount than your other media buying and planning is giving you. And we'll make all this happen for you for $90. So smart PR firms globally do that all in-house with smaller teams nowadays. So there's a lot of overlaps, there's a lot of cross-pollination, there's a lot of hybrid models that are happening. And that's how paid, earned, and owned are coming together. And interestingly, you may be aware, and others who are listening to this may be aware, globally there are 4 large holding companies. Okay, there are many more, but 4 are large. All these holding companies own almost 30% of the ad agencies and PR firms within themselves. So the largest holding group is WPP, and very few people will know that WPP owns at least half a dozen ad agencies and half a dozen PR firms. So the same chairperson is, and it's a listed company, oversees the CEOs of 5 or 6 PR firms and 5 or 6 ad agencies. So Ogilvy, Wunderman Thompson, which was earlier JWT, Burson Conan Wolf, which was earlier Burson Master and Conan Wolf, or Helen Norton Strategies, which is a PR firm, they're all owned by WPP. Similarly, there's a holding group based out of Paris called Publicis Group. They have a PR firm called MSL. They have an ad agency called Leo Burnett. You have Omnicom. Omnicom has an ad agency called DDB, and they have a PR firm called Fleshman or Ketchum. Then there is IPG or Interpublic Group. They have an ad agency called FCB and many others, Mullen Lowe and others, and they have PR firms like Weber Shandwick and Gorin. So interestingly, these 4 groups, and then there are smaller groups like Stagwell and Dentsu and Havas as well, but these 4 are the larger groups and they're mostly listed. They make sure that all client dollars, client rupees go into their kitty ultimately. And that's all. Like just this evening, before I came on to recording, I read a news that Omnicom Group has won a $300 million annual contract from Philips to do all of Philips' work worldwide, largely for PR, advertising, and media buying and planning. $300 million budget from Philips in Amsterdam, which is huge monies, right? So, yeah. So that's the basic understanding I want to give you and maybe your listeners of getting a sense of PR. So PR is largely earned, largely non-paid for, but PR firms also offer that service sometimes, and some people mistake that and say, okay, he's doing paid PR because there's nobody to educate people and correct them when this is happening. Right.
Correct. So I want to understand the cycle of money here. We see in India, as you mentioned, rightly mentioned, Bollywood, sports, especially cricket, and politics, naturally. These 3 are the places where a lot of media attention goes, right? And how does the monetary circle work here? Okay, for example, if it's earned, then who pays these people who are doing it organically? Unko paisa kahan se mil raha hai? How is that making sense economically?
Okay. So before I answer the question directly, I'll come to a direct answer. I want to indirectly tell you that don't compare brand, company, organizational PR to people who do PR for individuals in the sporting, acting, and political world. They're very different. So a lot of people mix up the two, and sometimes the mainstream PR gets a bad name because of this. So now I'll answer your question directly. Politicians, sports people, especially cricket, and actors, especially in the big film circles of Mumbai, which is called Bollywood, or the Hindi film industry in Tamil Nadu, in the South, and in West Bengal, they hire either a PR firm or individuals who specialize in PR. They call themselves publicists sometimes. They call themselves publicists, and individuals hire them for a project. It could be 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, and they pay them on two ways. They either pay them a fixed fee every month, and they have a target. They say, for the fixed fee we give you, convert that into 2, 3, 4 interviews every month for me in the relevant publications. That is one way of doing it. And they only focus on media relations. So they don't do the other PR, because that's why I said the difference is organizations also have PR firms helping them on CSR activities, employee engagement, innovative ways of doing communications and things like that. In this world, all that these individuals want is, how can I be in Times of India, Hindustan Times, Midday, Dainik Jagran, Femina magazine, Outlook magazine, and whatnot. So that individual piece is largely media relations driven, and these people who do that for them call themselves PR people, and nothing wrong with that, but they're typically called publicists. Their job is to get people they work for publicity in the magazines and newspapers, and they get paid either a fixed money amount every month. It could be like a salary, like they're employed, but it's more called a retainer or a consulting fee. Or they get a success fee. They don't get money. They're told that for every interview that comes in a specific publication, I'll pay you a set of money for that. So, for example, if I'm a young actor, my first movie is a hit, I want more producers to reach out to me, more scriptwriters to write movies keeping me in mind. I'll hire a publicist to say how amazing, how great I am, how down to earth I am, how simple I am to work with. Yeah. So that is done by publicists typically, and it's a very, very dog-eat-dog world there. Sometimes I also will pay a publicist to say, hey, I don't like that actor. I want a backstory about him because he drank at a party a few weeks back and misbehaved.
Wow.
So I'm telling you, I was at the party. So that happens as well. So, but that's not ethical PR, and that's not the right PR. That is done by publicists.
Conspiracy ho gaya.
World, yeah. Because there are thousands of men and women who want to come from all over the country to Bombay to become film stars, right? But only only about 20 films become a hit every year, and only about 5 actors become real big heroes or heroines or whatever you want to call them every year. So this is a crazy competition for that. That's different from this world of the corporate brand PR, which we have been talking of largely. So to your question on monetary, you are paid in
Nice.
these two ways. You're paid for a success fee, or you're paid on a monthly return as to achieve these targets to keep me alive in the news. But once you become a big star, you will still engage this kind of a person. But then media brands and media outlets want to interview you, want to cover you because they know their readers will buy a magazine, buy a newspaper if I feature you. Then once you become a star, you'll need this person to coordinate for you, but you won't need this person to actively pitch for you. I mean, you might sometimes because you will say, "Hey, I'm tired of getting publicity in the same old Indian papers. I want New York Times. I want a global magazine to cover me in some form." And Priyanka Chopra did that very well 10 years ago. She was one of the first Indian stars actors to say, I'm going to work on my publicity and PR in the US because I want to be a global star. I want to be based in the US, in New York and LA. And she did that. So she moved from film acting to become a singer briefly. She got roles in a bunch of shows that were not typical feature films as well. And we've heard
Correct.
of those in the past, Tico and others in the past.
Correct.
And she's made a career in life beyond Bollywood in Hollywood in the last few years, and has got so many deals going away, from presenting at the Oscar to writing a book to being a global ambassador for some United Nations bodies and things like that. Right? So that is all done because she was good. I mean, she was not half baked. If you're half baked, you can't get it. But there are so many like her who are good who don't get there because they don't invest at the right time in the right way of getting there as well. So that is to move to the examples of individuals versus examples of companies and corporates. I mean, talking of corporates for a moment, Apple is a great example. So Steve Jobs back in the day and Tim Cook now, they built the Apple brand completely on public relations, word of mouth, using influencers. But what was great was they had a great product to start with. But you had many other great products that work in the future. But Apple had a great product. They believed in the finesse, the polish, the classiness of their offering, and then it worked. So that's why it's maybe the only brand in the world where in the US, when they launch a new model, you have a day or two prior, people standing in a queue, whether it's winter or summer, people stand in a queue for 48 hours, 24 hours to just get into the store first and buy the first piece of that new brand and maybe sell it in the black market or whatever it is. But that's the iconic status that brand has created in the world. And an example is Apple's Twitter handle. Check Apple's Twitter. Apple has one of the highest followings for a brand which doesn't follow anybody. Apple follows zero people on Twitter, but I don't remember the exact number. You can check Apple on Twitter. They have huge amount of Twitter followers. I'm not an Apple user myself. I'm an Android user, but I'm always amazed and impressed with the Apple brand story and how they've used earned media influencers to kind of build an iconic brand in the last 25, 30 years.
समझा.
Right?
Yeah, that was an interesting and important distinction you made. क्योंकि अभी तक है, to be honest, I was thinking brands and companies from a expected answer of what you gave in the Bollywood वाला. तो मैं सोचता था ये क्या बोल रहे हो, तो कुछ नया ही निकला. But then when you mentioned it with the Bollywood and cricket all about, that made sense. That made a lot of sense.
Right.
Great. This brings me to crisis management. This also is a word which I came across from your profile only, and that made a lot of sense. Thinking about it later, that not only companies but figures, individual Bollywood actors, keh lo, ya sports person, especially politicians, they every 6 months or now and then some disclosure is being made. This may, it puts the company or the politician or the cricketer, whatever, in bad light. And then the PR, then what is this called? This management, crisis management. Because this you have to agree to me that ये थोड़ा तो structured है ना, कि अगर he may be wrongly accused or he may be क्या बोलते हैं, he may be guilty, whatever the case may be, whatever he had done, but his paid PR or normal PR, I don't know what to call in this case, will work or will function or will put out articles and all that kind of stuff to change that, right?
Right. So I want to repeat again two things. One is the PR done for brands and companies is completely a different ball game compared to PR done by individuals. So keep that in mind. And talking of individuals in the celebrity space, there are also individuals in the business space like CEOs and business leaders. Their PR is linked closely to the company's PR as well. So keep this distinction separately. You also again mentioned the word paid PR. There's nothing called paid PR, but I'll come to that. I know it's a habit. Maybe you learned it that way. So yes, once in a way, an individual, either in acting, cinema, or in politics, or in cricket, gets something called bad press, right? And bad press happens
Bad
for two
press.
reasons. Bad press. Bad press means you are getting bad publicity in the press, in a newspaper. Now you also use the word bad press on social media. The bad
Yeah.
press is basically negative stories or stories that don't talk highly of you. There are two reasons that happen. One is it could be very rarely, it could be a rumor and somebody has not verified and putting that wrongly. Then there is an apology that comes to the media outlet. The person in question will file a case against that other party and things like that. So very rarely happens.
Correct.
Usually stuff like that happens in these cases to do with creating gossip, creating controversy, creating conflict, because readers, journalists believe readers like conflict. That's a largely journalism. I'm talking of typical journalists. Maybe there are new age, modern journalists, your generation of journalists, the Gen Zs in the 20s, who look at data driven journalism. But 20 years back, 10 years back, if I talk to a journalist, he or she would love things that were conflict or controversy because they feel that controversy or conflict gives them more reach, more readership, more excitement in people's lives. I remember talking to a famous young journalist who's he's famous for different reasons now. He founded one of India's first paywall-led business outlets, and you can guess the name. I don't want to mention his name. He had met me 15 years back for coffee and said, "Hey, Amit, give me stories from the world of business that have controversy and conflict. My readers will like that." So journalists typically like that, and nothing wrong. Maybe that's how the media outlets work. That's how media outlets have flourished in the past. And maybe the owners or publishers or the bosses tell them, "Get me controversy." That's why if you open a newspaper, the second, third, fourth page in all the metros are always crime news. In Delhi, it's typically murders and rapes. In Bangalore, it's burglaries and dacoities. In Bombay, it's a mix of these two. It's crime news because people enjoy, and we, as a habit, want to see, oh, who's killed, how did that happen? Just out of curiosity. It's a human nature thing. So coming back to your question, these individuals that you see in bad light or bad press, like I said, happen because, let's say, two top actors break up. They have been married for a while, they have a breakup. That's big news because, oh, fans say, "Oh my god, I can't believe it." Or forget actors. Just 2 weeks ago, we had this entire news. It was trending for a day of Bill Gates and Melinda French Gates breaking up after 27
Correct.
years. It was news 3 days all over. I
Yeah.
mean, when Bill Gates and his wife 20 years back got a child, there was no big news. Okay, child. But breaking up after 27 years is a big news. Even after 27 years is big news, right? Now, to give you an example, when that happens, either they know when they're going to announce publicly that they're breaking up their marriage, that there's going to be news. And the same happened with Jeff Bezos and his wife a few years ago. They are prepared for it. So they make a statement, they have plans in place, they have legal teams in place to prepare for any eventuality that happens with that. And the best thing they do is typically be quiet. After the news is out for a few days, they're just quiet. But then, if counter news comes, like in the case of Jeff Bezos or Bill Gates, there's been news coming that their marriage is broke because they had a relationship with some other person. Even then, they have two strategies. One is, if the news is not true, they can file a legal complaint. If the news is true, they can still file a complaint just for posturing or virtue. But typically, they just sit quiet and let it be because we all know that the world forgets bad news in a few days. Okay, the world forgets good news in a few hours, but bad news in a few days. Nobody remembers. Like in India, every day there's a set of bad news. Like when you're thinking your uncle or aunt died of COVID, before you can even get over that, you're seeing another friend's cousin younger than your uncle and aunt who died of COVID. So you're just dealing with that on a daily basis. You're forgetting things. Like I have lost track of at least 20 of my friends in the last 2 months who have lost a spouse, sibling, a parent, because every day new news is coming. You're like, oh God, it's sad, it's bad, but you're dealing with that. So therefore, I'm giving you the same analogy. People forget news. So the trick that these people use when there is bad news against them is they just lie low, quiet. They know after a few days people will forget. Typically, because people have to jump. It's a world of 7 billion people, a nation of 1.3 billion people. There's so much happening all the time, and people forget and move on.
What does Score do? What is your offering? Why is it unique? Can you quickly tell the audience about that?
Right, I'll answer. So before I come to Score, I spoke of those 8 concepts starting with C. I want to answer a question: why do people do PR? Why do people get into PR? These 5 concepts, and then I'll come to Score. So the ultimate objective, whether Ayush wants to do public relations for himself in the future, or a brand wants to do, or a company, we do it for 5 reasons typically. We do it for goodwill. We want goodwill with our audiences. One, we do it for respect. We know when we do certain things in the public relations world, we get respect. We do it for engagement. We want to engage with people, and social media is a great way of engaging with people these days.
Hmm.
We do it for affinity. We want people to like us. Respect is one part goodwill, but we want people to like us. Could be a like that they press on our Facebook page. Could be just people liking us and therefore talking about us to people. Like I know people who like and therefore go to the next level of love a brand,
Yeah.
and they will just buy that brand to support that brand because they like it, even if it's no use to them.
Huh.
And the last reason people do public relations is they want to build trust among their audience for that brand. So I call it GREAT, great. People do public relations for greatness, to
Okay.
be great, and GREAT is goodwill, respect, engagement, affinity, and trust. So, to your question of what is score, so we realized that these 8 C's I spoke of earlier and
Yeah.
this 5 concepts why people do PR are lying there in silos. No one is teaching people that these concepts are related to each other. So we felt we needed to teach people a new way of doing PR. There are mass comm schools in the country. They teach mass communication and offer PR as a specialization, and they do a good job. But there was no one academy, one training center, one place that was doing 3 things, that was helping young graduates to join a program that teaches them PR with this mindset. Because I went to a mass comm school which was great at that time and still great, and they taught me PR from a lens of media because 20 years back that was how people looked at PR, but things have changed.
Yeah.
Second reason is we felt that with the other things we do, we run a magazine and portal for PR, we run a set of conferences in PR. We work closely with the leaders in the Indian PR fraternity. So leaders of two kinds, leaders of PR consultancies and leaders who work in-house.
Okay.
And they always ask for youngsters to join them as interns, as young management trainees and graduates, and we didn't know where to get them from. And because there was a need, like every year, at least 500 people are hired as freshers in PR. And the top 5 schools, they're producing about 200 people, okay? And the other 300 are coming from MBA schools, from other walks of life. So we said we will at least support 5% of that 500 and create over a period of time 25 people every year. So our goal is to have a batch of 25, 30 in the future, maybe more. Right now we have smaller batches. We are just 5 years old. And we felt these people at companies ask us for young talent. We said it's difficult to suggest talent that we don't know. So we said we will engage with youngsters in March, April, May when they're finishing their graduation, get them on board for a 10-month intensive training program for a small fee they pay us, and ensure that they get a guaranteed internship followed by a job placement in the top 10 PR firms in India. So Score was built to help the Indian PR firms to actually get good talent, very well trained. And 3 days ago, I was talking to the founder and MD of India's biggest PR firm.
Okay.
He was appreciative. He said, my HR team and my teams are very, very happy with the talent that is coming from Score this year and the previous years. And I want to do something to pay back Score for giving us great talent. How can I institute some scholarships to do stuff like that at Score? And we were very amazed to hear that. And you've done something right in the last 4 or 5 years. So Score was built to bridge these two, to teach PR in a new way, to offer the Indian PR businesses a talent that we felt was well-rounded in understanding PR and not generalists, but more special PR. So that was the idea of Score. And if you go to scoreindia.org, that's our website. Score stands for School of Comms and Reputation, or Communication and Reputation, because that's the mainstay of PR. You will get to know more about Score. And this year we're doing something cooler. The lockdown taught us that we are moving all our weekday classes for the next academic year from August to weekends only. So instead of having about 8 classes on the weekdays, like 2 each day, we are going to have these 8 or 7 classes on Saturday and Sunday. So thereby, anybody in the world who wants to learn PR, if he or she is working, retired, doesn't have commitment time on the weekdays, can join the program and do all the classes on the weekends. Yeah. So we're calling it the signature and the flagship program. It's the same
How long
thing.
is this?
Sorry?
How
It's
long?
10 months. It's August to June next year. And classes will happen all the weekends of it's almost 48. Actually, not 10 months. It's going to be for 11 months. So it's August to June. July, we won't have classes. So that's 11 months into whatever, 4 or 5 weekends, or 47, 48 weekends. And anybody can join. And those who join with as freshers, they're joining the flagship program. We will also support them to get internships in the top 10 firms in Jan Feb, and they'll also get job assistance and placements with the top firm. The others will just join for the learning in the program, and they can find their own jobs in the future if they want to, but they'll all get the certificate that says, okay, they've completed this program and then have learned 35 different subjects in those 48 weekends from the experts in the field.
Got it. Right. Even when I'm talking to you, it feels like you are happy in sort of educating me. तो वो score वाला teacher or education factor is I can see that.
I'm happy in just engaging with anybody who seems interesting. You seem interesting. You look like you're 21, 22 years old, right?
I'm 21.
You're almost half 21, exactly half my age. I'm 41. And when I was 21 years old, I didn't even have I didn't even have an idea of what PR was. I had an idea about 8 months later. I had it when I was 22. I applied to do a PR. I applied to do a master's in communications with journalism and advertising as my first preference. I didn't even know PR could be a preference for me. And
Yeah.
at the interview, it's a coincidence, the day I'm talking to you right now in the morning, I spoke to the director of the institute. After many months, we had a call just to catch up. He at the interview told me that you seem more cut out for a career in PR. He said, if you change your specialization from journalism or advertising to PR, I'll move you to the next round. It was his way maybe of filling in the PR batch because there were not too many PR takers in 2002, I think. And I wanted admission and I wanted to study. I said, yes, I'll shift my to PR. And I told him my only condition is after one semester, if I don't like it, can you give me a chance to go back? He said, we'll see and talk about that later on. But if you say yes to PR, I'll move you. And that was it. And I didn't have a clue at that time. And I was just barely 22. And 3 months later, my admission and began my program at the institute. And I feel glad I got into doing this. Yeah.
Awesome. All right, guys, for anybody listening, if you're interested in learning about PR or you want to get a degree or sorts on PR, check out Score. I have linked down their website link in the description. Moving on. So this is the final question, and this is a common question that I ask everybody. Not really in the flow of the questions that I'm asking, but usually my podcast somewhere is based a lot about productivity and who you are as a person and all that. We did not have time for that. Maybe next podcast we do that will be more based on your personality, your life.
And doing one more podcast with me. Is that the plan?
Yes.
Nice. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, we only talked about PR, and I'm sure there's a lot that you wanted
I thought
to.
that was the aim of this podcast to talk of PR, but happy to do one in the future. But let's go with your last question, please.
Correct. So the last question is 3 life lessons that you'd want to share with the audience. Not specific to PR. That's it's not in the flow. Just life lessons.
Nice, interesting. So I'm not promoting and plugging my Twitter handle here. People can find me on Twitter and you may put it on your description. But every day or every week, I try and put random life lessons on Twitter. And I don't have 3. I'm AIMITHPR on Twitter and you will find me putting random life lessons. I would say 3 things. One is explore. Okay, explore in life and explore in 3 ways. Explore by meeting interesting people. Explore by reading things that you can read as much as you can, books, articles, and travel to places. So that's my first life lesson, explore. So read, meet, and travel. That's one. Second, I would say give your time to people. Help by mentoring people at any age of life you are in, and give in small ways to charities and support causes. So I would say give your time to people, give to charities, and give mentorship to young people who may benefit from it and learn from you in some form or the other. That's my second life lesson. As much as you give, the more you will get. And the third is, and this is because I think you have a lot of younger listeners in your age group. That's my assumption. And I want to ask you a question at the end of why do you call it the adult troubles? You can answer that later and you can publish it or not publish it. The third is, that's an advice I did not get in a big way when I was 21, 22. I got that advice in different ways, but I didn't take it seriously until I was 33. That's 12 years later. My advice is save. I would say save as much money as you can in your 20s to live a cool life in your 30s and 40s. Some of us can be lucky. We will not save early on. We may inherit money from our elders and families in some form, or we may just get lucky and get a great job or start a great business or be a unicorn founder. But the trick is as much as you can save, and I follow this 1/3 principle. Whatever money you make, I know if you have student loans and other loans, it's difficult. But if you don't have those, try and keep 1/3 as your saving. Even if you want 50,000 a month, keep 15,000 as your saving in SIPs or FDs or wherever else you want to. 15,000 is your spend, and I know I'm talking of a very random figure for people. 15,000 is nothing. You can spend it in one day or one evening as well. And then the other 15,000 splurge if you want to. So you balance it out. You spend, you splurge, and you save at a young age in your 20s. So I would say my three pieces of advice are I said explore to start with, give and save. And give, I did not say give money, give your time in different ways to
Correct.
charities, to you can give money when you have it, but in your initial years, just save that money for yourself. Give when you have later on.
Sure.
So that's my, and it's not PR advice. And all these three things are behavior. All these things will help you get goodwill, respect, affinity,
Yeah.
trust in the future indirectly.
Yeah.
And that's it.
And answering your question, mineral trouble. So I started this podcast when I was 19. So it's been 2 years of hosting. This is the 48th, 49th episode that I have done. And when I was 19, I had ki bhai bahut dikkatein hai zindagi mein, a lot of troubles. How do I solve this? So I thought of starting a podcast from two objectives. One would be to talk to elder people, talk to people who have made it big and all that, and asking these questions, asking my, ki meko ye dikkat hai, batao. And I'll then portray it in a way that, because if I have this problem, a lot of 19-year-olds, 18-year-olds have the similar problems. So मेरा वो तरीका था कि चलो मैं I'll give back, at the same time it will be like a personal session, for therapy session for me as well. This was the original idea, but then it diversified a lot into a lot of different things. But the original was a mini adult summit, the mini adult club.
Interesting.
Yeah. Guys, check it out.
Guys.
Thank you, Amit, for coming to the podcast.
Thanks, Ayush. All the best to you. Take care.
Take a second.